Buckeye backers are live inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Facility. Got Rodney Potts here. He is a college football dogs writer, covers Buckeyes pretty much exclusively. We just had the press conference with the offensive side of the ball. The main takeaways from that really, one of the biggest things was Jeremiah Smith, and he's always open.
Literally all the time. They asked him, he said, somebody finally asked him, when do you think you might not be open? He laughed and took probably about 5 seconds because he'd probably never thought about that before and said, maybe put the whole team on me.
Yeah, put
Will
the whole
Howard
team on me.
said maybe 3 or 4 guys I might consider him not open, but I still might throw it.
Yeah, you got to guard this man with everyone. So he always open. When he gets one-on-one coverage, he was talking about how it's a dream. When he's in a different position, when he's in the X, or when he's in the Z, if he gets lined up by a linebacker, he's like, oh man, that just makes him smile. And he said, even it makes me laugh a little inside my head. He's like, I know I'm going to get the ball. I'm going to be open. It was just, kind of one of those things that you see the wheels turning when you start asking some of the players, some of the coaches, even Chip Kelly, about Jeremiah Smith didn't win Freshman of the Year. Apparently, he's not the best freshman.
Apparently not. Apparently doing what he's done on this team, being 18 now, finally 19, isn't good enough, I guess.
Yeah, 1,000 yards. No
Colin
big deal.
Simmons, he's great. He's, to come in and rush a passer the way he did and be at Texas, but I don't think there's anybody in this building, and not a lot of people would agree that Jeremiah Smith isn't the best freshman in a very, very long time.
He might be the best senior, and he's not even a senior.
I mean, I think there was one of the draft analysts the other day said he would be the number 1 pick in this draft class.
Absolutely.
Today, if he left.
That's very telling. Chip Kelly was like, hey, freshman of the year, he didn't even know about the word, first of all. And then second of all, he was like, well, I didn't get a vote. And they all kind of had that same smirk because everyone was asked. Will Howard was asked about it. Emeka Egbuka was asked about it. And they all just kind of laughed like, uh-oh, Jeremiah Smith is about to take off in this college football playoff.
Emeka Egbuka specifically said that's only going to add more fuel to his fire. And I mean, he just went for 200 and a few touchdowns. If you want to make him angrier and make him play harder, one, I don't know if it's possible, but if it is, we're going to find out on Wednesday.
Yeah, we're going to find out, and hopefully we find out a lot. All I want to see is the ball in that man's hands. What else did we go through? We had a little bit from Will Howard. You had a couple quotes from him that you thought were interesting. Go over some of those. What did you think about Will Howard's interview and how he's prepared and how he's thinking about the last time around? That slide is a nightmare. Like he mentioned that. What exactly did he say?
They asked him about it pretty much right away, and he said, he's still having nightmares about it. He still thinks about it. He said he's watched the game more times than he can count. He said he's went back and watched every game, but, they were 2 weeks after that first matchup that we had to bye, and now you have just under 2 weeks between this. That's about a month of time prepping for Oregon.
Yeah, and they've watched the film. They didn't want to focus solely on the film from Ohio State versus Oregon back on October 12th. They wanted to focus on the games prior or after that. Would be the 6 games after that Oregon's played in, because they've changed stuff up a lot. And both teams have kind of developed. Oregon's got some health back. They got Birch back as a D end. Chip Kelly mentioned that. He knows he's a good defensive lineman. And we also have our tight end back that was injured in that game too. So there's a little bit extra protection for the offensive line. He mentioned him as the 6th offensive lineman. What did you think about that?
I think tight end, they asked Chip about it a little bit too. I think that's huge. G. Scott, I don't remember his numbers, but he had a big game against Oregon. There were a couple of those balls up the middle he caught, and these RPO glance routes that Will's just laser focused in every time he throws it. And Kazmarek had that big catch that maybe wasn't quite a catch.
Could have been an interception.
Yeah, where he got injured, whatever. But I think tight end, Chip talked about it showing up in big games, and it does. It is a shorter throw to the middle of the field, like you say. You want to spread out wide, but it's a security blanket for a quarterback. And Will's hit it a few times this year. Against Northwestern, they really went to G a good amount. And I think G and Will being out there this game, a lot of that attention is going to be on Jeremiah, Emeka, and Tate. Somebody's going to pick up some of the slack where there's more openings, and I think Kazmarek being back helps tremendously.
And I feel like that helps in the run game, especially for long developing pass plays too, where you could kind of chip that defensive end. So it's good to have him back, good to have that 6th offensive lineman out there. Also, we mentioned a little bit about when we were talking about this, the connection with Will Howard and Chip Kelly. That connection is something that they don't even have to finish the play calling. It's just automatically dialed in. Those two have developed, and, they were both new to the program this year, so they had to develop that relationship along with learning the playbook. Now they both seem to have it down and can fill in the blanks for each other.
Yeah, I think you can see, even, I mean, they say the same things in press conferences without being prompted or knowing what the other one just said 2 minutes before they walked in the door. They both talked a lot about just being comfortable and being able to talk to each other. Here's what I like, here's what I don't like. And I think at this point, when you just see how plays are called and just what Will does well and what he doesn't do well, you don't see Chip ask him to do things he doesn't do well.
Yeah.
He's doing everything that he can, and he's doing it well at all times.
You know what else? I kind of harken back to thinking about the last game. Will Howard did get asked a question about the 5'10" cornerbacks that they have, but he said they're good shadowers. They're not real physical because maybe they are a little undersized as far as today's game goes, but they're right there. They're there every time, meaning they're athletic. They're going to be right there with you. So all they have to do is kind of jump, really, to get to some of our taller wide receivers.
Yeah, they talked about, I want to say Joe Klatt against Indiana pointed out, Jeremiah Smith, helmet
The
above.
size, yeah.
Throw it up. Throw it up above his helmet, let him go get it. And they did that a little bit against Oregon. There was an underthrow where he went and got it. And then Jeremiah talked about it too, the controversial PI late in the game. He was saying apparently wide receivers in college football can't be physical anymore. I think that's him trying to send a message that I'm going to be physical.
And he did say he was getting held there too, so it was hard to see from some of the footage that we had, but it did look like the guy was being physical with him, and he was just trying to shove him off to create space.
Yeah, he was trying to clear his hands.
Yeah, and so he wanted to make his cut, and he couldn't make his cut because he was being held. Be interesting to see what happens again this time. It didn't seem like in the last playoff game, the ACC refs from Tennessee, not from Tennessee, but from the Tennessee game, weren't really calling any pass interferences on either side. And he talked about that catch in the end zone. He said, I got both my hands on it. I should have caught it. Even though I was being held, they let him play. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this time around because we don't want it to come down to penalties like that.
No.
We want our guys to go out there and have a good time and be able to play the game. It would be interesting to see how the ACC refs call this in Pasadena.
Yeah, I hope it's physical. I hope they just let him play. I don't want anything, ticky-tacky. It's playoff football. It's January. Let them be physical at the line. Let them be a little more physical downfield. If it's something awful, call it. But I like that Jeremiah kind of went at it for a second saying, apparently you can't be physical now.
Yeah, he
And
fought
wants
for
to be
himself.
physical.
Yeah, and not only that, he wants to be the Kobe Bryant or the LeBron James of college football, or of the receiver position. He talked about that a little bit. You mentioned it. Go ahead and tell us what you think about that.
Yeah, he said, I want to be the Kobe Jordan, that kind of mentality guy. He's got that killer just instinct. You could tell. You watch the way he plays. You watch the way he carries himself around here just talking about it. And also you could tell that it bothers him that he's not perfect every step of the way.
Yeah, and it bothers him probably when they're going to go mention this right afterwards that he's not freshman of the year.
Yeah, I bet he's going to be very aware of it.
I hope he goes out and proves it in sunny Pasadena. A little gloomy here in Columbus, Ohio. Next time we see it, it'll be in the bright sunlight of Pasadena,
It's
California, baby,
76.
in the Rose Bowl. Buckeye backers are out.